All right, we are continuing on our path to going through this whole dadgum test. Now, some of you, we have not covered this yet. This is something we do at the end of the year. But when you guys have what's called a sequence of numbers, it's like a number of order of numbers in a sequence. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you guys to create some blank spaces with me, please, okay? And I'd like you to do 7 blank spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd like you to label this one the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, the fifth term, the sixth term, and the seventh term, just like that. Okay? All right. What does this A subset 3 mean? That means it's our third term. So what number am I going to put right there? 0. What number am I going to put right here? 6. Then, and finally, 24. You put those numbers down as you're doing the problem, and it helps reveal what's happening every single time. What's the gap? What's going up every single time? +6. So just put, hey, these are all going up by 6. That's kind of giving you proof of what's happening in the problem. It's going up 6 every single time. So what would go right here? What do you guys think? All right. And what's going to go all the way down here? -12. So our first term is what? -12. So what does that mean? That means when my n through has a subset n, a subset n, a subset n. So when I plug in a 1, what should I get? I should get a -12. So if I plug in, here's your little table you could make. All right, we're just gonna make a little table because you guys are used to seeing tables. All right, we're gonna call this n, and we're gonna call this a of n. So when we plug in a 1, we should get a -12. When we plug in a 2, we should get a -6. And then I'll just stop here. 3 and a 0. So which one of you, or which one of these do you think would probably be most likely to work? What do you guys think? What answer choice? Think B? All right. All right. Let's see. All right. Now, if I did this, if I plugged in a 1 right here, you would get a -12. But if I plug in a 2, look what happens if I plug in a 2. What happens if I plug in a 2 right there? If you're not sure what I'm talking about, if I take -18 and I multiply it by 2, where am I at already? -36, and then I have to add what? Just add 6 more, and now I'm at what? -30, and that's not where I want to be. So we're not going to say answer choice B. So let's think, what's it going up by every single time? That's what you need to look for. Look. Right there. There, it's going up by 6 every single time. So if you let's say you had a calculator, all right, and you wanted to use the calculator, I'm just going to use Desmos since we have access to it. Look what happens if you just typed in, instead of an n, do what? 6x minus 18. So instead of an n, use an x, hit the little gear button, and make a table. Your first number is -12. Your second number is -6. What would be your third number? 0. Your fourth number. Do you see the pattern that we created on our paper? Does this match every single term? And that's how you prove. So you're not guessing through this. You're like, okay, that's the proof. That's why the answer is answer choice C, because it fits the pattern. What does this set of numbers remind you of? Like this pattern. What type of function? It's going up at a constant rate every single time. It's like a linear pattern. It's going up at a constant rate. All right. So that's the answer choice C. All right. The next problem will be a lot faster. The reason I spent a little bit more time on the previous one is simply because you had not seen that before. So we're going to do 10 and 11. Won't take long at all. could you please highlight, underline, box in right now, y varies directly with x. And whenever you guys see y varies directly with x, I need you to put y over x. That's what y varies directly with x means. All right? Now, it says, if x equals 3, then y equals 21. All right? So, right, what are you going to put? When y is 21, what's x equal to? 3, right there. What is the value of x? So we're going to make a little proportion here. What is the value of x? So where does x go? Right here on the bottom when the y value is 105. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this. Some of you like cross multiplication. Some of you like just doing things in your head. But essentially, 21 divided by 3, what does that become? 7. So 105 divided by this number, what does that also have to equal? 7. So we got to find the number that works. So some of you like doing stuff in your head to make sure it works. Another way of thinking of it is this way. Does anybody know 21 times a certain number equals 105? 21 times a 5 equals that. So we could also say 3 times a 5. So what would x have to equal? 15. So that's one way of thinking about it. And it's not an incorrect way. It's just one way of thinking about it. Now, the other way I'd like you to understand that you have access to is this way called cross multiplication. So when we do cross multiplication, that means our cross products are equal. I'm going to do it in purple or this pinkish color, magenta. 21 times x is 21x. And 3 times 105 is 3 times 105. All right? So what you could do is multiply 3 times 105, which should be what? 315. And then what could we do to both sides? Divide both sides by what number? 21. And you get the same answer, x equals 15. So if you like cross multiplication, that will always work. Cross products are always equal when you have two equal ratios. So here's how it works. Give me another fraction that equals 1/2. Just any other fraction. Okay, that's an easy one. Give me another one. 6/12. There we go. 6/12. All right. All right. There we go. Would you guys agree? 1 times 12 equals 6 times 2. That's how you can check if your cross products are equal. All right. So if I did 315 divided by 21, I just want to make sure you see it. It's equal to a 15. That's why your answer is, bless you, 15. Sorry, I had a student. I sneezed. All right. But is that the only way to do it? No, you could do it other ways in your head thinking about it. All right. What's 105 divided by 15? What do you guys think? 105 divided by 15 would still be a 7 right there. All right. Now, yesterday we talked about these briefly. All right. We talked about these briefly. Now, right now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to do blank plus blank equals negative 17 and blank times blank equals negative 60. Now this only works if you have a quadratic equation and your a value is equal to what number? What does your a value have to equal? The number 1. All right. So these two numbers will add up to the b value, and those two numbers will multiply together to equal the c value. Now I'll highlight that so you know, like a, b, and c. So our b value is negative 17. All right. And our c value is negative 60. Now they've kind of given you some choices here, right? So they have to add up to a negative 17 and multiply together to equal negative 60. So which one of these choices add to this but multiply together to equal this? What would you guys say? A. A is right. Check this out. If I put negative 20 plus a 3, it's supposed to be a 3, and I do negative 20 times a 3, that meets both requirements. It can't just meet one requirement, it's got to meet both requirements. Okay? So Answer choice B, does that add up to negative 17? Yeah, it adds up to negative 17, but what does it multiply together to equal? Not a negative 60, it multiplies together to equal a positive, because a negative times a negative equals a positive. Now, there's a Desmos way of doing this. It's very easy, so just kind of follow along with me and do it with me. So I'm going to clear this out. If you would, please, just got to follow along. Just type in x squared minus 17x minus 60. And if you can't see the whole parabola, that's where this little minus button is zoom out. See, it says zoom out. Even tells you what it is. Zoom out. So there it is. There's my graph. And then I'm going to type in our answer choice we just found. Can you guys see how those exactly match each other? If they exactly match each other, they have to be the same graph. They have to be what's called equivalent to each other. Look what happens if this was one of our answer choices right there, right? I think that was answer choice C. This was answer choice C. Do you see how these graphs don't match? So you wouldn't choose that answer. Here's another graph that doesn't match. A minus 12 and a what? Minus 5. That doesn't match the graph. What's the only one that matches? When this was a plus 3 and this was a minus 20. So I don't know how easier I can make that for y'all. So hopefully next time you see one of those problems, like, oh, I'll just type it in and see if it matches. All right, moving on. Oh gosh, this was going to take a little bit of time. Okay, it's not that bad. Okay, but this is where you guys need to know the phrase that pays. So you guys are going to have to help me out when I'm typing this in because you guys can see it. I can't memorize all this. But could you guys please put y1 tilde mx1 plus b? Okay. All right, we haven't done this one in a while. Okay. All right, now we can estimate it, guys. We can estimate this. You guys see where it says age is weeks? Now I'm going to read through this pretty quickly. It says, a zookeeper recorded the feeding schedule for a baby rhinoceros for 20 weeks. The table, blah, 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 shows the percentage of, it's a scatter plot, of baby rhinoceros body mass that was used to determine the amount of food, blah, 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 as a linear function. So, by the way, highlight linear function, because we know it's a linear function. All right? What is the what? Best prediction of the percentage of baby rhinoceros body mass that should be used to determine the amount of food given at each feeding when it is how old? 25 weeks. So just highlight or underline the 25 weeks. Now I'm going to draw a line of best fit as best I can. And that gets me pretty close to all of those. All right, maybe it's not the best line of best fit, but it's pretty good. Now, over here, if this is 20, what's this point right here? 22, which means right about here would be 24, which means right about here, it's not perfect, but right about here would be 26. So if we just use some estimating skills, would you guys agree, or right about there would be 25? So I'm just using a little bit of estimating before we just start typing in all of our. So guys, I'm looking at this, and we'll find out the actual answer using just because we have time to type in stuff. But what would you guys say my answer is going to be less than? Less than 5. I'm just guessing our answer is going to be less than 5 before we type in all our stuff. So which answer would I probably eliminate? F and G. I don't think it's going to be F or G. All right. And what is J? 10. All right. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be H, but we're just going to go type the numbers in and see if I drew a good line of best fit or if I didn't. All right. So that's where So guys, what I need your help with right now. You guys ready? Got to go to Desmos real quick. Won't take long. As long as you guys help me out. Gotta get it done. Gotta make a table. Where is it? There we go. Make a table plus make a table. Here we go. Help me out. We got a one enter. Oh, hold on. We got one. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? 1, 2, 2, 4. Okay, there we go. So those are all the numbers. Okay, now as you guys do, the only way you get better at this is if you actually do it with me. All right, you guys can be faster. You guys have 2 fingers. I have one little pin. 20. What is it? Okay, 1 second. I got. All right. Okay. Wait, is it 13 then 13.5? Wait, 13.5, 12.6, 4, okay, 11.6, okay, and then 9. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, obviously. So there we go. I'm going to zoom out so we can see there, right there. Okay, now that I have that says X1 and Y1. Now I can type in Y1 and then put the little tilde button and then type in MX1 plus B. Okay. So there we have it right there. Now, what do we want this number to be? We don't want it to be a 20. We want it to be what? 25. Is this our X value or Y value? X value. So right here, this is the trick. All you guys got to do is type in, you want your X value to be what number? 25. Look. So my estimate was wrong. See what I'm saying? Like, so my line of best fit that I just drew by hand wasn't as accurate as I needed it to be. All right? What is my number right here say it's going to be? What's the best answer? 6. So the correct answer is 6. So I don't want you to always just estimate. Make sure you take the time and energy to do what? Type it in. So all I'm saying is I didn't do a horrible line of best fit, but I could have drawn a what? A better line. So look what happens if I draw a better line of fit. See what I'm saying? If I drew a little bit better where it gets closer to all those points, now where does that turn out to be? Closer to what? Closer to a 6. Okay? So that's why I want you guys, listen, if you have Desmos and you have the phrase that pays, then when you're taking the real test, don't be lazy. Does it make sense? Do the work. Actually do the work. So the answer is G. Yes, I messed up on purpose, in case you were wondering. But I didn't mess up a lot. I messed up a little, okay? 1 second. 1 second. I got a student ask me a question. It says, what's the what? The domain and the range. Right here, for domain, could you please put the letter X? For range, put the letter Y. All right? Domain is X. Range is Y. They gave you this function. What could you do with that function? Where could you type that in? Then just do it. Watch. I'm going to clear all this out. I'm just going to type in that function right now. I'm going to say, all right, all I saw right there was f of x equaled negative 37. I don't see anything. Why don't I see anything? Because I need to do what? Zoom out. Hey, look, there's the line. What do you think the domain is? How far do you think it goes left and right? All real numbers. What's the only, look at, just focus on the y value right now. What's the only number that you see the y value no matter where I slide the x value? There, that kind of gives you your answer. All right? The domain is all real numbers. Right there. That's the domain. And what's the range? What was the only number for the range? What was the only y value? Negative 37. That's why the answer is D. All right, moving on. Okay. All right, here's what I want you guys to do. This parabola. Normally, you guys are used to seeing y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Right now, we have an equation, and it's just y equals ax squared plus c. Now, they've written it a little bit differently. They said k of x is equal to x squared. All right, that's what they said. K of x is equal to x squared. They're like P of x is equal to K of x plus a number, plus a constant. Now that constant represents the C value right here, that constant. And the only thing that C value does is it moves the parabola up or down. That's the only thing the C value does. Okay? So right now, it says K of x is equal to x squared. So I dare you right now, in Desmos, just type it in. See if it will graph it. It didn't say f of x, it says K of x equals x squared. It graphs it. Now, I'm going to tell you what P of x is and see if this makes sense to you. All right? P of x equals x squared minus, I think it's going to be minus 3. I'm going to hit the home button. All right, let me go back to our page. Because it's equal to K of x. Now, what is K of x equal to? K of x is equal to x squared. And it says plus an n. Oh, not plus 3. It actually goes down what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6. My apologies. It's going to be minus 6. There we go. Now let's check the table. Let's type in a 3. And let's type in a negative 3. Does everybody see right here this negative 3, 3, and this 3, 3 right there? You see that? There it is. There's the 3, 3, and the 3, negative 3 right there. So what was our value at the end? What's the number that you would bubble in this particular answer? What did you have to type in or bubble in? Negative 6 was the answer. Okay? So the value of n, it just asked you to do what? Basically, if our original parabola is x squared, which looks like this, I'll make a little tiny one. Okay? That was our original parabola. Our new parabola dropped down how many units? It just dropped down 6 units, and that's why the answer is minus 6. So if you're bubbling it in, you have to bubble in a negative, and you would have to bubble in the number 6. That's why the answer is negative 6. Okay? Moving on. All right, guys. It says the first customer paid $12 for 14 postcards and 5 large envelopes. So what I want you guys to do is make the postcards X and the envelopes Y, postcards X, envelopes Y. So could you guys write that right there? All right, it says what was the cost in dollars for each large envelope? So which letter are we going to be looking for in our problem? The Y. There we go. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to build, I'm going to highlight these two equations, and you guys are going to get your calculators, and we'll show you guys how to do this. Okay? All right, in green, here's our first equation. We're going to say 14x plus 5y equals what? 12. Second equation, 10x plus 15y equals what? 2480. There's your system of equations. Okay? Now, if we wanted to do this by hand, I would take this top equation right there. I would multiply everything by a negative 3 so I could eliminate the y's. I could solve for the x, and then I'd plug it back in. Okay? So that's what I would do if I was going to do it by hand. Remember the elimination method, substitution method that we did by hand? But if I have these two equations right here, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to go to your calculator. I'd like you to go to apps. I'd like you to go to wherever it says polynomial simultaneous equation solver. I think yours is number 8. Mine's number 9. Just type that in. Hit number. And could you guys go to the simultaneous equation solver? Okay. It's in your calculator. You might want to do this to practice it. The more you practice it, the more your brain will remember it. The less you practice something, the less your brain will remember it. So make sure you're on the screen, hit where it says next. I think your next button is the graph button. Okay. And what did we say x was? 14. So you type in a 14. What was our y value? Press enter. Our y value was what? All right, 5. All right, so type in a 5. And then that was a 12. All right, and here what was our x value in the second line? 10. All right. Then 15. Then 2480. There you go. See where it says solve? Okay, I'll solve it. What's our y value? 71 over what? Okay, I just got to, could you guys, by the way, just write this down. Just write that down right there. In your calculator, just do 71 over 50. All right. So there we go. I'm going to hit the main. I'm going to quit the app. I'm just going to type in 71 divided by 50. What's it say? 1.42. All right, 1.42. All right. Now, that's not what I would do by hand. Here's how I would do it by hand. So help me, somebody with a calculator, help me out. I got negative 42x minus 15y equals negative 36. Underneath it, I've got 10x plus 15y equals 2480. So help me out here. We got these cancel out. That's going to be negative 32x. Somebody help me with the negative 36 plus 2480. Negative 36 plus 2480. Negative 11.2. All right, so divide both those. Help me out now. Divide both those sides by negative 32. Do a negative 11.2. 0.35. Okay, so we found our x value. That's the x value right there. Okay, so now I just got to plug it in and solve for y. So I'll take 14, plug in my x, and I'll solve for y. Somebody do 14 times 0.35. Tell me what that is. 14 times 0.35. Nobody's helping me. So I'm going to do 14 times 0.35. 4.9. All right, there we go. So that's 4.9. Take away 4.9. Take away 4.9. I get 5y equals 12 minus 4.9. 7.1. And then what do I do? Divide both sides by 5. And what does y still equal? 1.42. Now that is the by hand method that we've practiced. But when it comes down to if you can set up your two equations, now what form do you have to set your equations in? They have to be in what form? ax plus by equals c. If they're not in ax plus by equals c, then you cannot use the polynomial simultaneous equation solver. Okay? So you can either do it by hand or you could do what? Not Desmos. You can't use Desmos on this one. Check this out, guys. Look at this. Right now, I can't type in, what was one of the equations? What was one of our equations? 14x plus 5y equals 12. Here we go. Ready? 14x plus 5y equals 12. Will Desmos graph that? No. Okay? Now, if I changed it to y equals, which would be, hold on, y equals, and negative a over b. What's negative a over b? That's negative 14 divided by 5x, and then c, so plus 12 over 14. Will it graph this? Yes, these match. If you're wondering what the heck I did, what's the slope in standard form? Negative a over b. And what's the y-intercept in standard form? C over b. So this was your a value, this was your b value, this is your c value. But what am I expecting everybody to know how to do? Not just one person, everybody. To take that and build it into an equation and then use what? This. But you can't use that until you do what first? You got to make the equations that plug it in. Then it becomes easy. All right. All right, here we go. Let's just look at the graph. This is the water level of the river. So you see the level of feet right there? What's happening right here? The number of days, as the number of days are going up, what's happening to the water? It's rising. What's the question? And it tells us it's a what type of relationship? It says it's a linear relationship. When you guys see linear, you should think y equals mx plus b. When it's linear, that's what you should be thinking about. Y equals mx plus b. So right now, let's take a look at this. Which statement best describes, the only thing I want you to highlight or underline on this is this, the y-intercept. Could you please just highlight, that's the number, that's the y-intercept right there. Just label it, that's the y-intercept. What does it say our y-intercept's at? 16. So what does that mean? Our water level started where? At 16. That's all we got to look for. The answer that talks about the water level being at 16. The initial water level was at 16. That's the answer. Initial means at the beginning, the start. So put the word, hey, at the start. It's shorter than writing the word beginning. Initial means start. Okay? By the way, real quick, the water level was measured for 14 days. That's the domain. Okay? How high did it get? The maximum. If it says how high up did it get, that's dealing with the range. So this answer is dealing with what's called the range. That's as high as it got, a portion of the range. The water level increasing by 0.25 each day, that's referring to the slope, and this is the y-intercept. So those are the different pieces of the. They don't just put down random answers that don't mean anything. That's not what you're looking for. Okay. All right, guys, here we go. I want you guys to write this formula down, or this equation. Just remember, A is your initial, B is either your growth or your decay. All right? If it's growth, that means your B value is greater than 1. If it's decay, that's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That means it's getting less than 1 but greater than 0. It means it's getting smaller. Okay? So right now, what type of tournament are they having? They're having a tennis tournament. What did they start with? They started with what? 1024. So does everybody see how this is your A value all the way throughout? Okay, so that's your A value. That's what they start with. It says each round, half, put the fraction, half the players are eliminated. Which function can be used to find the number of players remaining in the tournament at the end of X rounds? Which one of these numbers represents half? Right here. That's the half. That's why the answer is B. You see how easy that is? Remember, what does the B value represent? The growth or the decay factor. Okay? Can you guys put right here? This means 150% growth. This means right here, this means 105% growth. This was reduced by what? You're reducing it by 50%. Okay? This number right here is 5%, but that means it's decreasing 95%. You're losing 95% of whatever you have. So 0.05 means 5%. 1.05 means 105%. So that's just a quick little thing about percentages. All right, here we go. This is, by the way, I'll show you guys. This is the quick way. This is called the difference of squares. Could you guys put a squared minus b squared equals a plus b, a minus b? This is called a difference of squares. Difference of squares. Now, there are some squares that you just need to be aware of, okay? So, for example, if I say, what's 1 squared? You say 1. If I say 2 squared, that's 4. If I say 3 squared, that's, no, 9. If I say 4 squared, that's 4 times 4, which is 16. 5 squared is 25. So these are all called perfect squares. This is another perfect square. So I want you to know that x squared minus 576 factors to and x and an x, and the square root of 576 is 24 and 24, and you got a plus and you have a minus. So there's a plus and a minus. Now, this is going to be your answer, okay? That's going to be your answer. But you didn't even have to know all that just to get the answer right. You could literally type it into Desmos. So all I want you guys to do right now, this is how you would factor. We'll practice factoring. Keep going throughout the year. We'll practice factoring. But right now, I want you to type that into Desmos real quick. It won't take long. So right here, type in g of x equals x squared minus 576. And if you can't see it, what do? What's one zero? What's the other zero? Write down the 2 zeros on your paper. You put it into Desmos. You write down the 2 zeros. What are the 2 zeros? Negative 24 and positive 24. So just say my zeros were what? Negative 24, 0, and positive 24, 0. Those were my zeros. The zeros, negative 24 and positive 24, can be found when it's factored. So that's the only one that matches. Okay, that's why the answer is H. So you could use Desmos and just look for your what? Look for your zeros. All right, last problem for today. Hey guys, do you see that little equal to sign right there? Can you write the word? That's going to mean it's going to have a solid line. So we're eliminating that one and that one. These are not equal to, so there wouldn't be an equal to little line underneath it. That would just be a less than or a greater than, okay? So here's all we're going to do. We're just going to solve it out and be done with it. Ready? Negative 4x is less than or equal to 6y minus 54. What I would like you to do right now is I would like you to add 54 to one side, add 54 to the other side. Here's what you have left. You have 6y. Do you see how this is facing it? You see how that's facing it? I'm just going to keep it facing it. So it's greater than or equal to negative 4x plus 54. What am I going to divide everything by? 6. So here's your final answer. Y is greater than or equal to negative 2/3. If you're wondering how I got 2/3, that's how you reduce that fraction. Plus, what's 54 divided by 6? 9. What's my slope? Negative 2/3. What's my y-intercept? 9. So which one has a y-intercept of 9 and it's shaded up? That's it. Notice, there's my y-intercept right there at a 9. Now, where's my x-intercept right there? Close to a what number? 14. So could you just do real quick? Do negative 54 divide that by -4. So do 54 divided by 4. And what do you get? 13.5. That lets you know your x-intercept. So your x-intercept was at 13.5. All right? And that's all we're doing for today.